Let's go outside, guys. It's a beautiful day. We're not gonna sit inside all day. Yeah. Take your time. So I've been having the trail cam on every night. It's on the tree there. And I haven't recorded any wildlife in a week. Could be the case it's not working, but when I come here in the dark it's recording, so it should record also a fox. So I think it's fine to let them out during the day. I'm not worrying about buzzards or hawks because they have a lot of shelter here under the birches. And I've never seen a fox in daylight. They're only here in the night. And wolves, I don't know, they're shy, you know, they don't come close. No? You didn't like it outside? It's not designed for a hillside. A lot of rain. Yesterday it rained a lot, about 25 millimeters. The day before it rained, today it rains, so it's getting wet inside. You can better see it now because the gravel shows a big color difference if it's wet or dry. And also the concrete walls. So next week I've rented a digging machine to dig the trench here and also the septic system. Let's have a look inside first. So you can see the wet spots in the gravel, basically all on the side. That corner is quite dry. So here it's wet because it comes down here, and the rain pipe from the gutters ends in there, and it's not connected anywhere. So, and there's water here. In the corners you can see condensation on the concrete. Probably a bit hard to see. Yeah, you can see here it's wet on the stones. The hillside comes as high as, well, about the beams. So the water probably goes down first and it comes through the wall here. So next week we're going to dig in drainage, and that will hopefully solve all of these problems. The question is, how deep does that drain needs to be? Because I can't get it as low as the floor here, because that's, well, more than 2 meters. It's impossible to dig that deep. I've got a small digger for 3 days, and it's a small digger because that's what they can bring up the mountain here with a pickup. And also to get around the house, on the hillsides, around the trees, it can only be a small digger. Now we have to dig it out, put it into wheelbarrows. I got some help next week, and then it has to go downhill, all that soil, because the soil needs to be replaced with rocks or gravel. Let me explain in a drawing. Okay, here we are. So I'll dig a trench here, probably about 1 meter 20. I think that's safe. And then fill it up with gravel, and on the top a little bit of soil. So rainwater that come past the gutter will come into the drain. The drain goes downhill on the side of the house this way. Here you can see it in 3D, so it goes down a bit here, and then it goes down on that side of the cabin. And then in the future I'll do exactly the same with the other cabin, but then it goes down the other way around, and around this side of the cabin. Here you can see it from the top. The question is, how far should the drain go here? I mean, obviously I have limits with this digger, but I wonder how deep the water travels, right? When it rains very hard, it travels down quite shallowly, if that is a word, and it ends up in the drain. If it's rainy for a longer period and the water sinks in deeper, it might travel through the soil much deeper. I don't know how deep that is. It kind of depends on the type of soil and the density, I believe. If this is deeper than 120, there's still water reaching the house, but I assume that's close to nothing or a little bit, but I'm guessing here. Ideally you want to have this drain here, but that's just too much. So, and then on the other side of the cabin, downhill, I have to also make preparations for the septic system, for the wastewater. I'm waiting for an answer from my geometra about the regulations, because I believe you need 3 tanks here. One for black water, a gray water, a degreasing tank, and a filtration tank. So, is that 4? I'm not sure. So you can't do it the simple way with just a concrete tank and a leach field, which is a more traditional way of septic system. So I'll probably have to go for an Imhoff system, which is more common here, which is not the cheapest, but it's a bit easier to install than a whole leach field. I don't know, I'm still looking into it, but if I can already dig some holes and some pipes in next week, that would be great. But I have to see. Probably the drainage is going to take quite a bit of effort. Alright, I'm gonna call it a day. 8:30. A lot of progress. Sewage is in. The soil is compacted. I needed it all to do all of this today because I've rented it for a day. The, how do you call it? The flattener. I don't know. This is going well. My brother said the concrete floor needs to be at no point touching the ground or the walls. It needs to be completely isolated with insulation material, which is polystyrene. That way the masonry stove can heat up the space and the floor, and it won't lose its heat into the building, into the structure of the building, you know, because there's all the stones and it's connected to the ground. The ground is cold. So that's kind of the way you do that. It's a bit like a sleeping bag, right? If you sleep in a sleeping bag in winter, you want to be fully in the sleeping bag and not be touching the ground. You'll have a sleeping pad because you need to be isolated away from the ground. Otherwise you get cold. So it's going well. I'll pick this up next week because tomorrow I have to finish the wall because next week we need to work there, so I need to get rid of all the stones there. It needs to be finished. But it's going to wait a few days. Beautiful day today. I wanted to talk about the outhouse because I've never done that actually. It's just a hole in the ground, 1.5 meter. I've been using it for more than a year now and it works great. It doesn't smell at all. I usually do number 1 outside, keep it as dry as possible. But if you throw enough sawdust in there, keep it covered, it doesn't smell at all. Even when we're with a bigger group like 2 weeks ago or 4, it works out great. Wall's finished. Finally. Now I also consider the roof finished, so I'm gonna make a video of the roof renovation, of all the work on the roof. It's gonna come out next week or the week after. Yeah, it's been a rainy week, and the whole month is going to be quite rainy and wet, which is good because I can see how wet it gets inside. I was put off a little bit by the amount of water I saw inside earlier this week. You know, when all the soil was still in there, it kind of absorbs the rainwater, and it never looked really wet after rain. And now it does, because I dug out much deeper, and on the concrete walls and the gravel it's much more visible. And the French drain that I put on this side of the cabin down there, I put it just a little bit too high. I didn't calculate it or plan it right, so I can't use it because the French drain, it needs to drain off the water and it has to go over a little bump. So I probably need to take a little step back with the basement floor, dig another hole and put draining in there, because as much as I want to move forward, I have to be really thorough with the water management. You know, when you're building underground, it just needs to be done right. So I probably have to build in another French drain before I move on and pour the floor. And they're off. They're excited because there's a lot of worms and little snails because it's so wet. They're fighting for it. First day outside. They usually, I mean, they took a step outside here, but then they quickly go back. So this is the first time they're on a stroll.